The screams were the first thing he heard. They echoed through the vast abyss, carried on a sulphurous wind that burned the throat and choked the breath. Lucian, a man once renowned for his cruelty and ambition, had died a violent death, but his punishment was far from over. When his eyes opened, he found himself at the gates of hell, an immense arch of blackened stone inscribed with the words, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." Dragged forward by chains that burned his flesh, he began his descent, each step taking him deeper into the heart of eternal torment.
The first circle, limbo.
The first circle was eerily calm. Souls wandered aimlessly, their eyes vacant, their mouths muttering prayers that went unanswered. These were not sinners, but the unbaptized, and those who had lived without knowledge of salvation. Their punishment was a hollow existence, forever yearning for a light they would never see. Lucian was not allowed to linger. The chains tightened, pulling him forward, the air growing heavier with every step.
The second circle, lust.
A storm raged in the second circle, fierce winds whipping through the air and carrying with them the anguished cries of the damned. Here, those who had succumbed to carnal desires were thrown about like rag dolls, their bodies battered endlessly against jagged rocks. Lucian's heart pounded as the winds howled around him. He could see their faces once beautiful, now twisted in agony as they were swept past him. Blood smeared the rocks, and the air was thick with the metallic tang of it.
The third circle, gluttony.
The ground turned to sludge in the third circle, a putrid mire of filth and waste. Souls wallowed in it, their bloated forms devoured by monstrous, three-headed beasts that emerged from the muck. The creatures' teeth ripped through flesh with a sickening crunch, their growls drowning out the wails of the gluttonous. Lucian gagged as the stench filled his lungs, the chains dragging him through the mire. He stumbled, falling face first into the filth, only to be yanked upright by the merciless pull of his captors.
The fourth circle, greed.
The air shimmered with the clang of metal in the fourth circle. To massive groups of souls pushed enormous weights, colliding with one another in a ceaseless, violent struggle. Their faces were gaunt, their eyes burning with avarice even in death. Lucian recognized a face among them, a banker he had once bribed to ruin a rival. The man's hands were raw and bleeding as he shoved his weight forward, only to be crushed beneath it when another soul shoved it back. The sight was fleeting as the chains yanked Lucian onward.
The fifth circle, wrath.
The river Styx boiled like molten lead, its waters teeming with the wrathful. They clawed at each other, their screams of rage merging with the bubbling hiss of the river. On the banks, others writhed beneath the surface, choking on the foul waters as they tried in vain to scream. Lucian watched as a man was dragged under, his flesh peeling away from his bones in the acidic river. The chains pulled him to a narrow, rickety boat piloted by a hooded ferryman. The journey across the Styx was brief, but harrowing, the wrathful souls clawing at the sides of the vessel.
The sixth circle, heresy.
The city of Dis rose before him, its iron walls glowing red-hot. Within, heretics burned in stone coffins, their screams piercing the air like a choir of the damned. Lucian felt the heat sear his skin as he passed, the flames reaching out as if to drag him in. A woman in one of the coffins caught his gaze, her eyes filled with a mixture of rage and despair. Her voice broke through the cacophony. "There is no salvation here."
The seventh circle, violence.
The forest of the seventh circle was alive with torment. The trees were gnarled and blackened, their branches writhing like snakes. Souls who had committed violence against themselves were trapped within, their twisted forms fused with the bark. When the harpies descended, they tore at the branches, causing the trees to bleed and scream. Beyond the forest lay a river of boiling blood, where tyrants and murderers were submerged, their bodies writhing as demons shot arrows into those who dared to rise. Lucian stumbled past, the air thick with ash and the scent of burning flesh.
The eighth circle, fraud.
The eighth circle was a labyrinth of horrors. Souls were lashed by demons, thrown into pits of fire, or twisted into grotesque shapes. Each punishment fit the fraud they had committed in life. A man who had betrayed his family was devoured by a serpent that emerged from his chest, only to rise again and repeat the cycle. Lucian's steps faltered as he saw a figure impaled on a glowing stake, the flesh melting from his bones only to regenerate. He quickened his pace, desperate to escape the unrelenting carnage.
The ninth circle, treachery.
At last, Lucian reached the frozen wasteland of the ninth circle. Souls were encased in ice, their faces frozen in expressions of terror and regret. The wind howled, carrying with it shards of ice that tore at his flesh. At the center of the circle sat Lucifer, a colossal, three-headed figure encased in ice. His wings beat slowly, generating the freezing wind that consumed the circle. Each of his mouths chewed on a traitor Judas, Brutus, and Cassius while his hollow eyes gazed at Lucian. Lucian's chains drew him forward, his body shivering violently as the ice encased his legs, then his torso, until only his head remained above the surface.
Eternal torment.
As the ice consumed him, Lucian's mind was filled with the memories of his sins. He had thought himself invincible, a man above consequence, but now he was just another soul, trapped in eternal torment. The 9 circles stood as a testament to human folly, each level an unyielding reminder of the price of sin. And as Lucifer's wings beat on, the damned screamed in an endless symphony of despair, their suffering eternal.